about Baker Mayfield possibly being available at the end of this season. He was upset that him and the Bucs couldn't get a deal done. He ripped their front office yesterday and said he's done negotiating with them until after the year. Any chance you could see the Jets being in the Baker Mayfield market in the offseason, Matt?
I don't think it's crazy likely. I do really like Baker Mayfield, though. And honestly, going back to 2018, that was the quarterback that I was hoping the Jets would end up drafting. Obviously, he goes number 1 and Sam falls to number 3, so that changes things. But I've always liked Baker. I think it's a better shot that Baker's a Jet than Joe Burrow. I know a lot of Jet fans also like to do the Joe Burrow conversation. Mayfield feels more likely than Burrow. But at the end of the day, I think the big reason why Darren Muji made those trades last year with Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner was to position themselves to take a young quarterback. They didn't do it in 26. They still have 3 first-rounders in 2027. I still think that's the most likely scenario to the Jets finding a franchise quarterback. But, it totally depends on where they finish this year. If there's a world where maybe they overachieve a little bit and they win 8 or 9 games and the Colts are good and either the Dallas Cowboys are good and the Packers are good and the Jets are picking like 15th, 20th, and 25th, maybe there's not really a way for them to get that franchise guy and they want to, improve over having Geno and they go that route. But at the end of the day, I still think the most likely outcome is that they're drafting a quarterback in round 1 next year.
I totally agree with you. And I just think so much would have to be aligned for this to even be something the Jets could pursue. I think the biggest thing is, one, he would have to be available. Like Tampa would have to want to trade him because even though he's a free agent, they will not just let him go for nothing. They can put the franchise tag on him and then trade him so they can get something for a guy who's been a very good quarterback in this league for multiple seasons now. So I'd be surprised if the Jets are in position to get a quarterback on a rookie deal that's their own. I think that's their path. I think they sold Woody Johnson on that plan. The way this could change is if the Jets win too many games, they're not in range for one of these quarterbacks. They don't want to trade up using their picks. They rather bring in a veteran and supplement the roster with those players. Or the other scenario, maybe it's like this past year where all these quarterbacks were anointing that are going to be good in the draft a year from now. Well, what if they don't amount to anything? And then it's just like a 1 quarterback draft class like this year was with Mendoza, and the Jets wouldn't be in position. But I don't think Tampa's going to move on from him. So I think it's a moot point right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think at the end of the day, he ends up staying in Tampa and they figure something out at the end of the year. Like you said, they have the franchise tag. You could always franchise tag him and then end up extending him anyway, like the Jets did with Breece Hall. So, I don't think this is something that's super realistic right now. But I get it. The Jets need a quarterback. There's a quarterback right now that's going through a rough negotiations. Of course, he's going to be linked to the Jets.
The Get Up crew discussed the Baker Mayfield conversation, including our guy Mike Tannenbaum. So here is some of that comment. Here are some of those comments from this morning on Baker Mayfield.
Played hurt last year then, because that's probably what he's really mad about as well. Yeah, he fought through some injuries, and that led to some of the lack of success down the road. And he's like, well, I thought that was going to mean I was going to be rewarded for playing injured.
Many people have that story. And I'm not mad at him pissing off teams. The hell, the teams pissed him off, too. He was balling for the Browns, took him to the playoffs, then all of a sudden they didn't want him. Carolina pissed off him and Sam Darnold. So, like, for some of it, it's just like, yeah, I'm pissed, but, hell, the teams had something to do with it, too.
Let's dust off that comment next March, okay?
Pay me my damn money and I won't be pissed off.
You'll be buying me lunch.
And by the way, are we really going to, like, give him a check mark for the Cleveland Browns? When's the last time the Cleveland Browns did a quarterback thing right?
He's not going back to Cleveland, though.
No, Cleveland's out. But to this point, you have to really understand in the NFL, as you do and you guys do up here as well, you've got to nail the quarterback position. Yeah. And do you believe that Baker is the guy that Tampa Bay needs to go all in with?
Well, yeah, but again, contextually, if it doesn't get done this year, they could always tag him. So, again, like, there is great optionality if you're the Buccaneers, who, by the way, have signed lots of their players to long-term deals, despite what, Assistant General Manager Baker Mayfield said yesterday. They actually have a documented track record of taking care of their own.
You're so bitter that he cut out of the front
I just go by what I see, what he said.
Mike T doesn't like Baker Mayfield, so I'm even more in love with the idea of the Jets pursuing Baker Mayfield then.
That's tough. He's had a tough run the last couple of years.
Tune in Sundays this football season on ESPN New York for Mike T and I's New York Game Day show Somehow Mike didn't quit after last season, and we're back starting September 6th, baby. Let's go. Sunday, September 6th, 8 to noon. Mike's on from 9 to noon. I get the first hour solo, and then we will talk Jets, Aaron Glenn, the Giants, and Harbaugh, and everything going on around the NFL. So get ready for the return of New York game day.
Man, okay. I really hope for our sake, but also Mike T's sake, I hope that Aaron Glenn is significantly better this year, because I don't know how he's going to sit through that another year.
JJ with a super chat. We are so back. Jets football, baby. Jake/Matt, the Jets gave up 24 plus points 13 times in 2025. If Glenn cuts that number of games in half and the young offense stays healthy, is 7 to 9 wins realistic? Yeah, I think it is. If you're telling me the Jet defense is that much improved and the offense stays healthy and actually play to some of their potential, I think this team should win at least 7 games with its talent level. I think if Aaron Glenn wants to be the coach next year, he needs to win 8 games. Like, I don't think this is an awful roster. This team should go out there and be competitive. And competitive to me is not, oh, you won 6 games, you doubled your win total. Who cares? Like, they won 7 games with Zach Wilson multiple times. I want to see this team go 8-9 if Aaron Glenn wants to save his job.
Yeah, I definitely think that this is a fair expectation if that's the result that we're getting on defense. Like you said, when they are significantly improved and, they're keeping opponents to under 24 in, 10 of the 17 games, I think that gives them a pretty good shot to win, especially under the assumption that the offense stays healthy and that, Geno isn't completely washed. I think there's going to be a lot of eye test for me on what this thing looks like if Aaron Glenn is coming back or not in 2027. But I don't think, even as is, I think 6 or 7 wins is kind of my expectation. So if the defense is better than my initial expectation, then yeah, they should exceed that 7-win mark.
I just don't trust that the defense is going to be a reason why they're winning games. That's my fear. I think the defense will be better because it can't not be better. I just don't know if the defense is going to be good enough to win the Jets games like Salah's defense was the years they were going 7-10.
Yeah, I mean, that was like a top 5 defense in the NFL for those 2 years. And the Jets made a lot of changes that I really like, but I don't think it's really a fair or realistic expectation for this team to go from like 31 up to 5 defensively. There's still some things, right? Like they don't have a true number 1 shutdown corner like Sauce Gardner was those 2 years. So that's a hole. I worry about the depth at linebacker. I like DeMario a ton, but Jamie Sherwood was awful last year, and they have nobody after those 2 guys. And safety, I like the Minka Fitzpatrick ad, but man, whoever's starting next to him is a really big question mark right now too. So, even if the Jets defense gets up to like 20th or 18th or somewhere in that range, I don't know if that's enough for this team to completely get over that hump and get to that maybe 8 or 9 win mark that we were talking.
Football guy with a super chat, he cuts the line. If we take Baker next year, would we be okay using a first-round pick on Jeremiah Smith and Sellers as the competition for Cade? If we take Baker next year, well, I don't think you would add another quarterback in that scenario. You would have Klubnik hopefully be your long-term backup. Again, I don't think Baker Mayfield's going to be a Jet, but in this scenario, yeah, I would love Jeremiah Smith to be added to the wide receiver room in addition to what the Jets already have going there.
Yeah, I think Baker would love that if he had Jeremiah Smith and Garrett Wilson and Omar Cooper and A.D. Mitchell and Breece Hall and Kenyon Sadiq and Mason Taylor. Like, that would be a really, really fun offense. I'm with you. I don't think it really would make sense in that scenario to add another quarterback. I'm also not really the biggest Lenore Sellers fan. I think he's got to show me a lot this year. But in that scenario, I agree. I don't think you're taking another quarterback to add to that room.
The Jake Asman Show is brought to you by PrizePicks. Check out PrizePicks right now. If you're a sports fan, they have something for everyone, especially if you're one of my listeners and you're gearing up for the upcoming Jets season. For player picks on PrizePicks, you just pick a player you like and you go more or less on a few of their stats. Check out some of the numbers they have for some of your favorite Jet players: Geno Smith, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Omar Cooper Jr., Kenyon Sadiq, and many more. PrizePicks should be your go-to. And check out their new offer right now. Play your first $5 and get $150 in lineups if you win. All you need to do is sign up and use that code HMA. That's PrizePicks code HMA. Download the app now or click the link in the description to download the PrizePicks app today. In terms of what you would like to see from Geno Smith this year. What is the baseline level of expectations that you have for Geno Smith in year 2, or go around number 2, I should say, with the Jets?
So I think somewhere between quarterback 20 to 24 is my expectation. What does that look like stat wise? 36 to 3,900 passing yards, somewhere in the mid 20s in touchdowns, completion percentage around 65%, turnover or interceptions probably somewhere in like the 12 to 14 range. I expect the turnovers. That's been a part of his game, especially the last couple of years. I don't think he's going to go quite for as many as last year. I believe it was 17 picks. Passer rating in the low 90s. Not fully back to what he was during, peak Seattle, but I also don't think he's going to be as bad as what he was last year. So, I think he'll be fine. And again, that's a really big upgrade. Like Justin Fields was not a top 32 quarterback last year. Brady Cook was not a top 32 quarterback last year.
Top 70 quarterback.
Yeah, right. Like it's that can't be overstated. Even if Geno is the 24th best quarterback, how big of an upgrade that would be in just looking like a semi-functioning offense here. So I think there's enough weapons on this team. The offensive line's good enough. I think you can hit those numbers.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's hit some of your calls. The Gusbuster Umbrella Hotline is officially open. And let's say hello first up today to Doug on the bed down under. Hello, Doug.
Hello. How are you guys doing this morning for you?
What ridiculous, bold prediction do you have for us today, Douglas?
I don't think I have anything too bold today. But obviously you have to start with hashtag last the first baby, believe. But that's a joke at this point. No. So starting for your first point, for the first 4 picks, I think realistically we should expect them to play with David Bailey with the lineman and defensive line rotations. I think he should be anywhere between that 60 to 70% play percentage. I don't know how the rotations would work. And the other 3 guys, Pons, Sadiq, and Omar Cooper, I want them all playing at least 75% of the snaps if they're healthy and during the season. And then the rest after that, realistically, going with health, hopefully Cade Klubnik doesn't play a snap this season because that means the Jets are playing well, and we don't need to see how the young guy looks. And then Darrell Jackson, maybe like that 25 to 30% rotational defensive lineman. Then you have Payne as a special team or a key gunner on special teams, and maybe he gets a look towards the end of the year.
I've heard nothing about Payne so far. It's too early to know if he's doing anything.
Yeah. And then Jackson, and then Inez Cooper just a backup. So, but those first 4 guys, like I said, you want Bailey playing in that 60 to 70%, and the other 3 should be at least playing 75% of the snaps. Would you agree with that's what you want it to look like?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think how you laid it out is pretty fair.
Because again, I don't know how Glenn does his defensive line rotations, but like in the NFL, for the most part, there's only like a few defensive linemen who really play all the snaps. There's still rotations. They just don't do it like that anymore. Back to like the tweet, like it's not the same NFL as Glenn was back in the day. So there's just a lot more rotation on the defensive line than there used to be. I don't know how much Glenn rotates, but you also brought in guys like Onyemata, and you have depth at defensive tackle now, and you have depth on edge. So like I said, I would like him playing like the Bailey one's the only one, but he needs to play at bar minimum at least 60% of the snaps.
Yeah, I need him out there as much as he possibly can all year. He's the second pick in the draft. All right.
Yeah.
Got a good D-line coach. So teach him how to be better against a run. I think they'll do that. And I think David Bailey's going to be a really good player.
And then, Jake, quick question about your interview. Why are you doing a radio Monday through Thursday? What's going on with Fridays?
It's very odd. I don't know. Michael K is choosing to do the old Monday to Thursday vacation and then work Fridays. He was off yesterday too. I'm in for a Monday. It's the summer of K, baby. So I just show up when they tell me to. That's really it.
Fair enough. And then here's you could call it bold take. I think the Colts pick will be the highest of our 3 picks.
How high are we talking?
I think it'll be a top 5 pick.
Everyone just assumes the Colts are going to suck. The one thing I'll say is I think Steichen's a pretty good coach. Like, they've never bottomed out when he's been there. And they've had some pretty mediocre or awful quarterbacks.
Yeah, but I think Daniel Jones is not going to look right. I think it's still just gonna be Jonathan Taylor. I think they overpaid Alec Pierce. I know he's good, but I don't think he's worth that. And they took away Michael Pittman. So who is it gonna be opposite Alec Pierce now? Josh Downs, who hasn't been able to stay healthy really and doesn't really scare you. So it's gonna be similar. It's just gonna be all Jonathan Taylor. I don't see it. I don't see it.
Michael Clemens could be Defensive Player of the Year for them, though, Doug.
If that happens, I don't know. I would gift 1 million memberships if that happened.
A million.
Wow.
This new job down in Australia must be paying you pretty good if you're able to.
No, I'm just very confident
Michael
Clemens will not be Defensive Player of the Year.
What's 1 million times 5? That's how much 1 million gifted memberships would cost Douglas.
That would be a lot of money that I do not have.
We'll put you on a payment plan. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
$20.95.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. But
our master of receipts has noted it. Boomtown, thank you.
Yes, but yeah, I think the Colts pick. Well, and then I think it'll be the Packers who are the higher of the two, Cowboys or the Packers. I think the Packers will end up being worse out of those two teams.
The Packers are a fascinating team because they were awful without Micah, and he's not going to be there at the beginning of the year. Obviously, there's still some real talent on their team, but they're good like every year. It's like tough to picture them just being awful one year.
I know, but they play in a tough division, and then I know people are like, I think the Giants will be better, but I think the Cowboys are clearly at least at worst the second best team in the NFC East this year if they're healthy. Because without Dak, obviously it's a big difference, but I think the Cowboys with Dak are clearly the second best, at least at worst the second best team in that division. So, but the NFC East is weird, so I don't even bother to try and predict that division. But in my eyes, it's still the Eagles are the best team, and then it's the Cowboys. But I have a feeling they'll make the playoffs. I don't know why, but
I love that the Cowboys have a great offense. I still have some questions on that defense, though.
That's but with Mike, I don't know, but I think it'll be the Colts pick as our highest pick, then the Jets, and then the Packers pick.
The deal. Just got no chance unless you click on that like button. And you got to make sure you subscribe to the Jake Asman Show. You don't, you can get the f*** out. Now let's go, Asmaniacs. We're built for this shit.